Okay, we're now recording. Let me go back to share screen and
Okay.
there we go. Okay, as a review, we're going to start with alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xc, omicron, p, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. Now, do you feel reasonably comfortable that you could read it yourself?
Yes, I would like to try.
Why don't you read it for us then? I'll
Okay.
leave the slide up so it's a cheat sheet for you.
Okay.
So,
All right. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, is that right?
XE,
Xe,
right,
omicron, pi, rho,
right.
sigma, tau, upsilon, pi, chi, is that right?
Yeah, how'd you say that again?
Phi, pi.
Okay, it'd be more like an F sound, be phi, as in phonetics.
Yeah.
Be phi or phi,
Okay.
phi, phi, fo, fum.
Okay, that helps a lot. Chi, psi.
Okay, the chi is going to be more like a coming out from the back of your throat. It's a chi or chi, as
Yeah,
in chemical.
like a key.
Yes, exactly.
I. Okay, psi is C.
Right, it's C. It's got that PS sound, like in taps.
Okay, C. And omega.
Very good. Very good. I'm impressed. All right, let's try it one more time without the helps.
Oh. Okay, alpha,
Right?
gamma, delta, epsilon. I learned them by heart.
Yeah, that's good.
Zeta, eta,
Right?
iota,
Theta.
theta, like the theta,
That's right. Yep.
iota,
Okay.
kappa,
Yes.
lambda,
Yes.
mu,
Very good.
nu,
Right?
x, oh,
XC.
xc,
XC. Right?
xc. Okay, xc.
It's kind of like a long X sound. It's XC. No.
Okay, omicron,
Right?
uh, pi,
Okay.
rho,
Very good.
sigma.
Right. You got two sigmas. If it's in the um, beginning or middle of the word, it'll look like a baseball cap. If it's at the very end of a word, it's going to be look similar to our S.
So say it again. That's sigma, right?
Right, that's sigma. There's just two different forms of it.
Okay, that's what.
So if it's at the end of the word, it's going to look like our S. If it's anywhere else, the beginning of the word or the middle or anywhere other than the end, it's going to look like a baseball cap.
Okay, but it's still
But
both.
they're the same. It's the same letter. Sigma pronounced the same and does the same thing.
Tau.
Right?
That's the U. Epsilon.
Upsilon or upsilon, yes.
Pi.
Oh, not pi now. It's going to have a PH sound like in fee, fi, fo, fum.
Okay. I.
Fee or phi.
E. I can't get that one.
That's all right.
Okay. Phi.
Key.
Xc.
No. XC's up here. XC's that funny looking E with the tail.
That's right.
The X looking thing is key as in chemical.
Okay. Chemical.
right?
And then that's that funny looking C.
C. I always think of that as the devil's pitchfork,
Mm,
and so it's C
C,
and
omega.
so it's interesting when Jesus speaks in Revelation, I am the Alpha and the Omega, he's encompassing all that exists by using the alphabet to show that everything in between he is. He is the Alpha and the Omega. I always found that quite interesting.
Oh, I like that revelation. Oh, wow.
So that's very good. And now we have the vowels, the alpha as in father, the epsilon as in met, the eta as in obey, the iota as in pit, the omicron as in omelet,
Okay.
the upsilon as in tube, oob, the omega as in tone. So there are, what, 7 vowels. I always remember this, the eta and the omega are called long vowels. They're always long. It doesn't mean a big deal to you now, but it will some later on.
Okay, so the eta.
And the omega are long vowels. They're always long.
So it's the N, which is eta, and the W, which is omega.
Yeah, let's not make too much of a habit by using our English and our Greek, because you'll, and I do that all the time, but it's the omega and the eta. And then those are always long. And then the short are always short was the, I forget. It's the Omicron and upsilon, I think. Let me look that up real quick. Hold a minute. Always short. The epsilon and the omicron. That's what it is. So the epsilon and the omicron are always short. The eta and the omega is always long. The alpha, iota, and upsilon can be either short or long. And that will make a difference later on when you're doing when some of the vowels change, you'll see why they change. So it's not important you have that memorized, but it's probably, like you tell, I don't. But the biggest thing is that the omega and the epsilon are short. The omega and the eta are long. The omicron and the epsilon are short, and the rest can be short or long.
Okay.
And then these vowels can be put together to form diphthongs. Diphthong is nothing more than 2 vowels combined to function as a single vowel.
Okay.
So it has one sound. So they, instead of saying alpha iota or I, it's pronounced as we would say isle. So it has a long I sound, isle. Epsilon iota has like a long A sound, so it sounds like 8. The omicron iota as a diphthong has like an oil sound. The upsilon iota is like a suit, oot sound. And notice that these all end in the iota, and these all end in the upsilon. So almost all the time when I see 2 vowels together ending in an upsilon or ending in a iota, I'm going to suspect it's a diphthong. That's not 100% because there are other vowels, and they're not diphthong combinations. These are the combinations. There's the omicron upsilon, which would be pronounced in group, oop. The epsilon upsilon, which would be pronounced as in feud, ood. And the omicron upsilon, or alpha upsilon, as in kraut or sauerkraut, ow. So these are diphthongs, and they just function as a single vowel sound, okay? Then you have what they call iota subscript, which is like an irregular diphthong, where you might have the alpha iota, but instead, in their places, you'll see this an awful lot, where the iota subscripts under the alpha, or subscripts under the eta, and subscripts under the omega. I didn't mean to do that. These are important to recognize. That's a little iota. It's tiny iota there. There's no sound associated with the iota, so this is just a, o, alpha, eta, omega. They make the same sounds. The iota does not have a sound here. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can you say it again?
Okay. There are some irregular diphthongs. These are called regular, right here.
Okay.
Okay. But there's sometimes, quite often, the iota that would be here actually subscripts and comes underneath. The iota under the eta would subscript and comes underneath the eta. Stop that. And the omega, the iota subscripts and comes underneath it. The iota doesn't make a sound in this case. Up here, the iota combines with the alpha and it makes a sound for isle. Here, it combines and it makes a sound for, somebody's coming in, makes a sound for 8. Here they combine for sound for oil, but here they do not combine for sound. It's just a o. And so we'll see that as you go through. You become very comfortable with it. Not very long from now.
Okay. And when I was doing my homework, I wrote down how does the iota subscript affect pronunciation. I put the iota subscript has no effect on pronunciation, but is essential for translation.
Very good.
Totally correct, because it sounds like that's what you were just explaining to me.
You're 100% accurate. It is essential because we'll see, not so much tonight, but next week, we'll begin to see this subscript iota being significant in terms of our translation. But it does not affect the pronunciation or the sound of the letters or the word at all. You pronounce it the same way as if it's not there.
Okay.
But it does affect how we translate it, and we'll see that as we go.
Okay.
So this is sort of a quick overview of the vowels and the diphthongs and the iota subscript. Normally, I'd go through homework here and rewrite stuff out, but I think, did you have any specific questions on the homework?
No, what I am doing, well, what I'll continue to do, I was trying to write out the letters. And
Yes.
I'm working on my handwriting, and you kind of went over some of the questions I did have when I was thinking about the breathing marks and the iota.
Yes. Don't confuse the breathing marks with the iota subscript. Obviously, the breathing marks are above the letters, and you have a rough and a smooth breathing mark. The smooth looks like our normal comma, but it does not change the pronunciation at all. There's no effect to pronunciation. The rough breathing mark looks like a backwards comma, and it does add the sound of like a letter H in front of the first letter. And let's see if the breathing marks, I didn't put them in the slide. If it's on the breathing marks only used in the first letter, if it's the first letter if the first letter is a vowel on the word. So if there was a breathing mark here, it'd be above that alpha. But if it's a diphthong, it comes above the second letter because this functions as one vowel. It'll come across a function above the second letter. If it's smooth, it looks like a comma, and it doesn't change a thing. I don't even know its function. It's just there. But we differentiate that between a rough breathing, what looks like a backwards comma, and we would add an H sound. So this would be high or hile for a rough breathing. That help?
That helps a lot. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm not sure there was a whole lot else in the homework that I thought that you'd have trouble with.
Pretty straightforward. But was I supposed to send that to you?
Yes, ma'am. I do need the homework. I always, listen, I take a lot of time giving you feedback on your homework. So there's 2 ways you could send it. One is to, if you're able to scan it in and email it, scan it in as a PDF or something and email it, great. That's the easiest way. If not, you could take a picture of it in your phone and just send me either email or text the pictures, and I'll put them together in a PDF so that I can grade them, and then I can make comments on it, send it back to you.
Perfect. Well, Well, I'll do that. I'm gonna scan it in email because it looks better.
Okay. Yeah, I prefer to scan. It's much easier, but not everybody has access to a scanner. And
I will. It was just something else that I wanted to. I wanted to finish the handwriting. It looked kind of bad, so I'm doing a lot of erasing.
well, I wouldn't worry about the handwriting. You're going to get plenty of practice in the handwriting, and you need it. You really do, because the more you get comfortable, the Greek alphabet has to become almost as comfortable as your English alphabet, and you're going to get plenty of practice in writing the words and such as we go. So you'll be fine.
Can you explain the syllabification, like when you in my homework it said divide the following words into syllables.
Right.
I kind of wanted you to go over one of those.
Okay, which one was that?
Let's see, number 3.
Eschatos.
Size 4, number 3.
All right, let me do it this way. So I don't think I can type, but I'm in this mode. Let me see if it'll let me do a. Text. Okay, so the word is, let me change my Greek alphabet. Let's see. Oh, my Greek alphabet's not working. There it goes. Well, it's not giving me my my breathing marks. We'll ignore the breathing marks for now. Okay, so this is the word, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me blow it up so you can see it.
Wow. Yeah. No problem with that. I'm having problems with all of them.
Yeah, well, hey, I wear my little reading glasses when I'm especially looking at some of these things. So
Right.
let me see. Where's the size on here? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to get out of this share and use something else for this.
Okay.
And let me go to share the whiteboard. See if it will let me do it here.
I sure have to get used to these words.
I don't know if it's going to let me change it here either.
Dividing. I need to divide these words.
No, I'll do it.
One vowel per syllable.
Okay, now I know I can do it. All right. Okay, so walk me through how you might, it's called syllabification, how you'd break this up into syllables. How many vowels are there?
It's still a little challenge for me. One vowel per syllable.
Okay, but how many vowels in the word?
This particular word. Okay. 1, 2. This looks like, is it 4?
Okay, which 4?
The E.
The epsilon is correct.
Oh, gosh. I can't say the words. I know what they look like right now.
All right, that's fine.
The second one is a vowel.
No, that's that baseball cap. So it's the sigma.
Wait a minute.
So remember we said the sigma can have 2 different looks.
That's right.
Right?
God, what a good example. You just told me that too.
Make this really big here. So the sigma can have two different looks, and then this word has them both. It has, in the middle of the word is the sigma, looks like a baseball cap, but at the end is another sigma, and because it's at the end, it's called a final sigma. It looks this way, but they're both the same letter, and they're both consonants. They're sigmas. So there's really only 3 vowels. So what are the other 2?
The A.
The alpha, correct.
Alpha.
Right there.
And the omega.
And the omicron.
Omicron.
Right. The omega would look like this. That'd be the omega.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. So now, how would we break it into syllables? We know there's 3 syllables now because there are 3 vowels. And so how would we do that?
Okay. So first our vowels are the E, the I'm trying to remember the names.
That's fine. It takes time. You're not going to get this overnight. So.
Okay. Now I know what I need to do as soon as I get off offline. Let's see. The A, the E, the A.
Okay, but what do I break the word up? You know that there are 3 syllables because there are 3 vowels. So now I want to break it up into the 3 syllables so I can pronounce it. That's all we're really doing.
We're putting a hyphen between.
Okay, and
let's see. What's the X?
the C.
XC.
Or the key, excuse me, the key.
So key between that and the A. Is that right?
Well, if you break it up here, then what you're going to do is you're going to you have to put the alpha with it. And so just to make it a little easier, here's where we would break this up. The sigma key can go together because you can pronounce them together. Some consonants you can't pronounce together and you'd separate. But this case you can. And it almost doesn't matter. You could almost do it as S, and then toss. And so, but technically, that's the correct answer, although I wouldn't call it wrong if somebody did that. That makes sense?
So if somebody did that, split them, these syllables up that way, that would not be wrong?
No, I mean, what we're talking about is how to pronounce it.
Right.
Really, the technical correct answer is the sigma key can go together because that would be pronounced like ska. So ska, toss, eskatos. However, that's not really any different than here.
Okay.
Eskatos. Slightly different. So they say technically this is correct, eskatos. And there's a breathing mark here. You have a smooth breathing and you have an accent mark. See the little downward. Do you remember what kind of accent mark that is? It's not that important, to be honest. There are 3 kinds: a grave, acute, and circumflex. This is the grave. It's pointing down towards the grave. The acute is pointing the other direction, pointing away, and then the circumflex would be a little wiggly sign above it. All that means is that's where we put the accent when we pronounce it. So this is eskatos.
Eskatos.
Eskatos. Yeah, that's all that means. Okay?
Okay, that helps.
Okay. It'll take a little time, but you'll come on it really quickly the more you do it, obviously. And so now we get to a vocabulary, and just as practice, let's sound these out. I'll let you go first. Remember, when 2 gammas come together, the first one is pronounced like an N. So this is not agilos, it's angilos. So this is actually pronounced like a nu. So it'd be almost pronounced like angelos. Be pronounced like angelos, but it's spelled angelos.
Hey, do you mind if I look at page 8 to kind of help me remember?
Sorry, page what?
To help me remember the pronunciations?
Sure. Do you want to try pronouncing this?
Yeah. Wow.
Well, let's break it up.
I see why you really practice now.
Okay, so now we broke it up.
Okay, the Y sound is.
This is the alpha, gamma, gamma, epsilon, lambda, omicron, sigma. So how would you pronounce this first two letters?
Let's see the backwards Y. I'm looking in my book. I know how I would want to say it, but I'm trying to find it in the book.
Well, tell me how you want to say it. We'll go from there.
A-Y.
Okay, it's not a Y now. It's the gamma. So gamma is the third letter in the alphabet.
That's right, gamma. I'm looking at it too.
And it sounds like a G. So normally we would say this is og. However, because there are two gammas together, it doesn't get pronounced like og. It gets pronounced like, on. That's our new. So a new is an N sound. So you pronounce this on, loss. Angelos. You want to try that?
Angelos.
Yeah, angelos. Now, it's actually spelt this way. Now pronounce it. Angelos.
Okay, so what's the third syllable? The upside down Y.
Well, that's a gamma also.
Okay.
So there's alpha, gamma, epsilon, lambda, omicron, sigma. So the two gammas are together, and we're going to separate them when we pronounce it. And then because they're together, the first one is actually pronounced, it's still a gamma, but it's pronounced like a nu, which is in our language an N. So you pronounce it, wait a minute, I'm in Hebrew now. You pronounce it as if it's a nu, angelos. Okay, does that help?
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm going to get it.
All right. What does it mean?
What a test.
These are words that are actually quite common, and even in English. Angelos. What does angelos sound like?
Angelos.
Uh-huh. Like angel? So that's an angel or messenger.
Right. I can see how angel, I could see that. And I can
right.
That, but I can see it.
So let's pronounce this one. This is very common. This would be pronounced amen. Amen. We say it oftentimes at the end of a prayer. Amen.
Amen.
So amen. It really means in Greek, a truly or surely. Oftentimes in English, we transliterate it. To transliterate is to take the Greek letters and write in English the English letters that are related to that. So that's where we get amen from. But it means truly or surely.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Okay, so but it's pronounced as in amen.
So I was looking in the book, verily or truly.
Right, verily, truly, or surely. Yeah, you're on page. Yeah, page 16. Right. Verily, truly, or amen, or so let it be. So I don't think we get that one much, but and then this would be pronounced, for sake of time, I'm going to go through this. These two consonants that get separated because it's hard to pronounce a nu and a theta together, so you separate it. On, throw, pos. So I got 1, 2, the omega. There's one vowel, 2 vowels, 3 vowels. So I have 3 syllables, and I would say on, throw, pos. You know what anthropos means?
Anthropos.
That's very good. It's either man or mankind or humanity.
Wow.
Okay, and then here we have, this one is one is very common. It'd be pronounced with a, pa, sta, los. And so my accent goes here, apostolos. Apostolos. What would apostolos mean? It sounds like the English.
Sent.
Okay, very good. It means apostle, or oftentimes the one sent or the messenger. The apostle is actually the one carrying the message. He's the ambassador, the one who's sending, the ambassador for the one sending, and he's carrying the message from the one who sent him or her. And so the apostle is the envoy, the one carrying the messenger. He's the apostle. And so we'll go through these rather quickly. This is Galilaya. It's pronounced with the Ga, Li, Li, So I got 1, 2, 3. There's a diphthong, alpha, iota, and 4 vowels. So there's 4 syllables. So this is the capital Ga. That's really this, but it's capitalized. Oh, wait, wrong one. I'm in English still. Here we go. Galilaya. What does Galilaya sound like? It's a place. Galilee, yes. That's why it's capitalized, because it's a name of a place.
Wow.
Okay, and here we have how many vowels? 1, 2 vowels, so there's 2 syllables.
So that's a vowel? Look like an N?
Yeah, that's the eta. Right.
Okay.
Okay, so this is going to get separated in pronunciation, as in, didn't mean to capitalize that. It does it my system does that automatically. So this is the R sound. This is gra, fe. The accent is over the last syllable, so it's grafe. What does grafe sound like to you?
Grafe.
Well, you can see it means writing in scriptures. It's the one for grafe would be the writer or the writings. And then we have the word for glory. It is pronounced with the accent is on this first syllable, da, and this zeta sound, dadza. As a z, dadza. And so this means glory. Here's a verb, which we haven't had yet. And it would be, has 2 vowels and 2 syllables, go. Ego. Like let go of my ego.
Right.
Ego means I. And then here's the word we did earlier, eschatos. Now, this is an adjective, which we're not going to do adjectives for a couple weeks anyway. but eschatos or eschate or eschaton. We'll get to that later. And then we have the word for life. All life, zoe. It's pronounced with 2 syllables or 2 vowels, and we separate. I hate it does that. Zoe, and there's the accent, so it's zoe.
Wow.
And then this is theta, eta, and we would separate the 2 vowels because they're not diphthongs. And so this is theos. The accent is over here in the second syllable, so it's theos. And what would theos mean?
Is that God?
It is God. Yeah, it's God. Now, normally, it shouldn't be capitalized. There it is. Okay. That's the lowercase theta. The uppercase theta looks similar, but not the same. But it's not, in Greek, they didn't capitalize it. The context tells you whether it's speaking about the one true God or a pagan god. And so our English translate and capitalize God because it's a, it's not his name, but it's a pronoun. But there are cases, obviously, where God in the Bible is not the one true God, but pagan gods, and those are not capitalized. This word is the most used word in the Greek, and it's pronounced with 2 syllables. Well, actually, it's a diphthong, so I made a mistake. That is 1 syllable. So this is 1 syllable word, and it's the alpha iota sound is like a diphthong, is like isle. So this would be, so it'd be like I. So this is kai. And it means, now, words can have multiple meanings. You look up in a dictionary, and there'll be multiple, word means number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. You get multiple meanings. Well, same in Greek. This can have many meanings. Predominantly, it means and, A-N-D. It also can mean even, also, but, and several other things. But those are the most common. And then we get to this one. There's 3 syllables. There's the first syllable here, and this is not a diphthong, so we'll separate that. So there's cardia. Cardia. What does cardia sound like?
Cardiac.
Yeah, cardiac, cardian. It sounds a heart, so it means heart.
Right.
Okay, and then we have
inner self.
2 vowels, so 2 syllables. Cosmos. Carl Sagan, the late atheist, would use this word a lot, and he'd speak about the cosmos, which is, of course, the world or universe.
Humankind.
And then there's logos, the logos in John chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the logos. In the beginning was the word.
Right.
Although logos has many other meanings, but its predominant meaning is word. And then we get into, there's a diphthong, so there's actually, hard to pronounce this P, and I almost never, I keep it a silent P, but some people make a pneuma, but I just do new. So I make the silent P, but others don't. So ma. And there's my accent mark with the little wavy line. That's a circumflex. So it's pneuma. And this means spirit or breath, wind. So it could be the spirit that's in me, the Holy Spirit. It could be my personal spirit. It could be wind, those kind of things.
So isn't that first letter the sound of a P?
Yeah, that's P, or it's it's the pi or P letter, but it's pronounced P, or so it'd be pneuma. I keep it silent and I just say pneuma, but some people pronounce it and say pneuma.
Pneuma.
Well, here's a P again, and this is pra. It's a cat. Well, every time I move, it makes it pra. There's another vowel, so we'll separate from that vowel. Prophetes. 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 What would prophetes mean?
Prophet.
Very good. And then we got sabbaton. Sabbaton.
But.
And that would be
Sabbath.
Sabbath. And we have phone, which is voice or sound or noise. And then we have Christos, and that would be, of course, Christ. Okay? So that's our review. I want to go to chapter 5 and just do an introduction to English nouns very quickly. If you're like me, and you probably are not, but I struggled with grammar in high school and did poorly for years. And then I studied Greek, and actually I had to learn grammar, and I became pretty good at it.
Wow.
So Greek will actually improve your English grammar.
Oh.
In English, there are a system called inflection, where the words change their form. We see it in pronouns. For example, he and him have the same meaning, but they change their form. He functions as a subject, and him would function as the direct object. But they mean the same thing. They're speaking to the same person. But that's an inflection. So they change the spelling to give it a different function, or they change the spelling to give it a different meaning. He, she, or they. So those are called inflections. One reason to change is a function. Which is more correct? She is my daughter, or her is my daughter?
She is my daughter.
Sure, that's the subject. We know that very naturally in English. But this meaning the same person, he or she is functioning as a subject, and so her, which would function as a direct object, would not be appropriate here.
Right.
I love she, or I love her?
I love her.
Her, because her is functioning as a direct object. Those are the same words with different spellings. That's called an inflection. It changes its spelling, it changes its form, like the form is a spelling, changes form to meet a different function. Here's a subject, here's a direct object. So English has inflections. We have inflection to change meaning. For example, English has a number, singular or plural. When it calls numbers, talking about something singular or it's plural. They are my child, or they are my children?
My children.
Children, that's plural, right. This man or this men stayed, but those man or men left. Well, this is a demonstrative pronoun, and man, and it's singular, so it has to be this man. Man functions as a subject here.
Okay.
And it's singular because it aligns with this. Okay. But here, those is plural, so it must be aligned with men here, right? So there's an agreement with those and men, an agreement with this and man. And so even in English, our inflection helps to work in agreement with other parts of the sentence. And they define the meaning, either singular or plural. It's singular man or some plural men over here. Pronouns are the most inflected things we have in English. Nouns in English are normally, there are exceptions, but normally nouns in English are not inflected. For example, teacher is a noun. It can be used as a subject or as a direct object. The teacher gave me my homework. Well, the teacher is the subject in that case. My homework, uh, uh, I'm trying to put it as a direct object now. I called my teacher about the homework. Well, there the teacher is the direct object. The form of teacher did not change in English. It stays the same. And the only way we know whether or not it's functioning as a subject or the direct object in English is where it's located in the sentence. But Greek is highly inflected. Like where we have different spellings for plural or singular, or we have pronouns like he, she, or it. But many of our nouns are not inflected. In Greek, all the nouns are inflected. Almost all, not all, are inflected. And there's a reason for that. In English, we have three cases. We have a subjective case. Well, that's nothing more than the subject. The subject is doing the action of the verb. Kirsten went to college. Well, Kirsten is the subject. The dog ate my shoe. Well, the dog is the subject. That's one case. If we don't really know what the subject is, we ask ourselves the question. We look for a noun or pronoun before the verb. You know, and there's a structure in English where we put generally the subject before the verb. The dog ate. Kristen went. And normally, if we don't know what the subject is, we ask ourselves the question, who ate or what went, or what ate or who went, whatever the case may be. So that's how we determine that in English. We also have another case called possessive. Well, we understand possessive. There's three ways we do possessive in English. We have the reputation, and actually it's the reputation of the teacher is good. Or we could say the teacher's, apostrophe S, reputation is good. In other ways, we can use pronoun, his books are easy to understand. Those are ways we show possession in English. So we have subjective and possessive. In English, we have objective as well. Things function as a direct object, which receives the action of the verb. Hayden earned an A. There's the direct object for the test. The preacher helped, that's the verb, him. That's the direct object. If we don't recognize the direct object, we asked ourselves the question, what helped, or whom was helped? Generally, the direct object in English follows the verb. So you have the noun, the subject, and the predicate. Actually, the whole thing is the predicate, and basically the direct object. So there's the subject, verb, and direct object. In English, we're used to that. We don't even think about it anymore. There are other factors that deal with inflection in English. The number, singular or plural. Most students, plural, like that student. Or we'll say likes that student is probably more, I'm in Greek still. Most students likes that student. Well, we understand plural and singular. What changed? The form changed by adding the S at the end of it. So most students, plural, likes that student. The gender changes. We have inflection will change the gender. Masculine gender, feminine gender, or neuter gender. He, masculine, gave it, neuter, to her. That's, feminine. So generally, pronouns will change in gender, such as, the prince or princess. Those are two different people. And there is such a thing as called natural gender. The natural gender refers back to something. Masculine is he, feminine is she, others would be it, like a ship. That's a ship cannot be masculine or feminine. It's a neuter. It's an it. In Greek, personal pronouns and a few nouns have natural gender, where the gender reflects back to, I'm trying to think the right words to say it, reflects back to the gender of whatever it's pointing to, a masculine, feminine, or a neuter. But generally speaking, in Greek, there's grammatical gender, where it does not matter. It's called masculine or feminine or neuter, but it doesn't relate to it actually being male, female, or neuter. It's just a grammatical category. For example, the word harmatia means sin. Well, this is feminine, and I know that because of its ending.
Right.
Tells me it's feminine. So harmatia is a feminine. It doesn't mean women are all sin. Only women sin. It's just a grammatical category that says sin is in a feminine category. And apostolos is masculine. I know that because, oh, I didn't want to do that. I know that because of its ending. Apostolos is masculine. It doesn't mean only males. It means sinner. It doesn't mean only males are sinner. It's just a grammatical category that say, this apostolos is in a masculine grammatical gender. Spirit is pneuma or auta or neuter. They don't have a masculine or feminine, whether they're just neuter. And cosmos. Cosmos is neuter as well. That's right. And so there's a natural gender and a grammatical gender, even in English, but in Greek, it's much more so. There's a term in Greek called declensions. You'll see it a lot. And I want you to know this much. Declension is nothing more than a pattern. It's a pattern of different inflections.
Okay.
Pattern for books, plural. For plural, say books, men, or children. Children. A pattern for moose is plural, deer is plural, fish is plural. It does not affect its meaning. And so there's childs is a plural if there was such a word as childs, or children. Well, they would mean the exact same thing. It's just that there's a different form in the plural for children. It's a change in form, not its meaning.
Change in form.
Right. In other words, it's spelling change, but it doesn't change the meaning.
Right.
Okay? And so really that's a summary of English. What I want to go to now is chapter 6 real quick. Let me stop sharing this. I'm going to pull up chapter 6. Because this is where we're going to get into the Greek noun system. And we want to learn 2 types of nouns. Let me share the screen.
Okay.
Okay, you should be able to see chapter 6 now. Okay, so we're going to talk about chapter 6, the nominative and accusative and the definitive article. And this will come clear. Now, I sent you some slides. Let me go through a couple of preliminary slides. In Greek, English, we talked about cases. There's 3 in English. There's subjective, there's objective, and possessive. Well, Greek has 5 cases. The first 2 we're going to learn tonight. Nominative, and the word functions as a subject. And accusative, the word functions as the direct object or objective. There's some others we'll get to later.
Okay.
But all nouns, and there are 28,956 nouns in the New Testament. All the articles, and there are 19,869 articles in the New Testament. And all pronouns, there are 16,703. All adjectives, there are 7,636. And all participles, which we'll get to much later, are 6,674. All of these have these 5 cases. We're going to learn the first 2 tonight, okay? There is the nominative and the accusative case. And I gave you a little cheat sheet, and what this is designed to do is I color-coded things. I color-coded the blue for the subjective case, which is nominative. So the nominative, 31% of the nouns in the New Testament are nominative. They function as the subject. Okay, so when it's in the nominative case, it's really just talking about the subject. So different terms, but it's really making it simple. The nominative case is talking about the subject. The accusative case is talking about, what did I do? I moved something. Oh, talking about the direct object. And so these are the 2 we're going to learn tonight. We'll learn about the dative and the genitive later, next week actually. And here's how it works. It's very, try to give you a little illustration here. In a plant, there's a root. We understand a plant. It has a root, and as the plant grows, it comes out of the ground and forms a stem. Well, the stem grows, and off the stem comes leaves or flowers. Well, really, our inflection for noun cases works just like the plant. It has a root, it has a stem, and it has different leaves to it. And so when we go through, and I didn't mean to have all these up here at one time. I meant to change that. When we go through the noun cases, the first declension is nothing more than a pattern. So there's a pattern for singular masculine nouns called second declension. And that pattern has each word has a root, it has a stem, and it has the leaves or cases. So the actual root here is, let's see if I can write it. I didn't put the roots in here because, I don't know, I just didn't do it. Here's the root. And so the root comes out of the ground. It adds a little, what's called a stem ending, the omicron. And then we add these leaves to it. The omicron sigma, I made it blue. That's a nominative case. That means if the word is logos, it's in the nominative singular case, and it means it's functioning as the subject. So in English, I know it's functioning as a subject if it comes before the verb. That doesn't happen in Greek. Logos could be anywhere in the sentence, but I know it's a subject if it has the omicron sigma ending to it. And so that tells me it's logos. I know it's in the direct object, the accusative case, if it's logon. So we have, in this pattern of second declension, masculine, singular, logos, or logon. Ignore the others for a minute. Let me continue the same pattern.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a second declension pattern for masculine words, plural. So remember, a word can be singular, can be plural. I got the exact same root, log, and the exact same stem, loga. I just changed the endings. Logoi is nominative plural. Logus is accusative plural. Well, if it's functioning as a nominative plural, that's going to be words plural. So that would be a lot easier when I've got my whiteboard and I'm writing in. Oh, come on. So that would be words in the subject. In English, it'd still be, as a direct object, it'd still be words. It'd be the same thing. But in Greek, it's going to be logus versus logoi. That make a little sense. I know it's going to be confusing until we actually start doing it. Okay. But what I tried to show you is that there's a root to every word. That's important. And then every word forms a stem. And so in this case, there's a stem that ends in an omicron. This omicron is part of a pattern called second declension. And that's all that is. Don't let it throw you. It's nothing more than a pattern. So what I want to do is learn the pattern. Yeah. So when a word in the second declension masculine singular pattern functions as a subject, it's going to end in omicron sigma. And it functions as a direct object, it's going to end in omicron nu. And so here I get the exact same word, except it's singular. I'm going to get in English, both logos and logon means word, singular. Well, in English, I put it after the verb, and I know it's functioning as the direct object. In Greek, the only way I know is the omicron nu ending. And if I want to, if the word functions as the subject in English, I put it before the verb. Well, in Greek, the only way I know is that I put it with omicron sigma. Does that make any sense at all? Kind of. Let me walk through it and show you.
Okay.
Okay, so forget everything else. Look at this column right here. Second declension masculine.
Okay.
Second declension is a pattern. It's a pattern of stems ending in omicron, technically. So stems ending in omicron is a second declension. masculine ones to function as a subject is called nominative, and I color coded in blue to make it a little easier for you.
Okay.
Okay, is going to have the sigma ending. The direct object is the accusative case, and it's going to put it in red for you. It's going to have the same stem. See my same stem, omicron, same stem. So right there, omicron. So that's still, I know I'm in second declension because I got the omicron ending. So my nominative adds a sigma, for the subject adds a sigma. My accusative for the direct object adds a nu. To make it plural, I still got my same stem, omicron, for the subject and for the direct object. Same stem as omicron. But I add, for plural, I add the iota at the end. Well, it doesn't want to highlight it well for me. Okay, and then I know it's nominative, functioning as a subject, as the plural. Or I add the sigma. Actually, there's this omicron, upsilon sigma, functioning as the accusative plural. So this pattern right here is the exact same word in the singular and in the plural. And it's logos, logon, logoi, logus. Here it means word singular, and here it means words plural.
Okay.
Okay. When it ends in a omicron sigma, it's a nominative case, singular. Omicron iota, nominative case, plural. Omicron nu is accusative case, singular. Omicron upsilon sigma is accusative case, plural. That's how I know to translate. I know how to translate it as word or words. That's easy. Now the question is, where do I put it in the sentence? Do I put it before the verb or after the verb? Well, that's what this tells you. Does that help?
That helps.
Okay. So now that's second declension pattern, okay? For masculine words, there's still second declension pattern. I'll stop moving. For neuter words. And again, I want you to notice now, they all have the omicron stem ending. Well, this one doesn't. It actually does, but it actually has an omicron there. But there's an event that occurs called contraction, of which the omicron goes away and becomes the alpha. But we're not going to get into that for another couple of weeks. Okay. But it actually is there. You just don't see it. So if I go back to our little tree design here, I've got second declension is a pattern with the omicron stem ending, and says the omicron stem ending. So, and that's a pattern. You have a pattern for masculine singular and a pattern for neuter singular, and then you have the same thing for masculine plural, and neuter plural. Now, here's the thing. This word logos, its stem with its endings,
okay,
it will always be in this pattern, second declension masculine. Always. It's never going to be over here, second declension neuter. It's never going to be over here, first declension feminine. This word is always this pattern. This word is always this pattern. These words are always these patterns. A word follows a single pattern, and that's how we know what the word means. We know how to use it in the sentence by the pattern it's following, and the case endings. This is the case ending, nominative singular, accusative singular, for a second declension masculine, omicron sigma, omicron nu. For a second declension neuter, omicron nu, omicron nu. I know it's the same. You'll see how we'll use it later. And then we have a first declension pattern. The first declension pattern does not end in the omicron stem. Stems does not end in omicron. It ends in either an eta or an alpha. Stem ends in eta or an alpha, and it's feminine. All feminine nouns will end its stem in an eta or an alpha. And that's how I know it's first declension feminine. So it's going to follow a pattern. That pattern is for the subject, the nominative case here, is going to have actually nothing added to the stem. That's why there's a little dash here. There's nothing added. And so agape is the stem, and and the first declension feminine singular. There's nothing added to it for the nominative singular. Basileia, agape is love. Basileia is king or kingdom. Basileia is going to follow this pattern, and there's no ending to add. There's no add-on to the stem, and so it's nominative singular. If I add the nu, the alpha nu or the eta nu, I add the nu to the stem. Well, now I know it's an accusative.
Okay.
Okay, and it's functioning as the direct object. So it cannot be the subject in the sentence. So when I translate my English, I know agape means love. Agape means love. Question is, where do I put it in the sentence? Well, if it's agape, it's the subject. If it's agape, it's the direct object. Basileia is the subject. Basileion is the direct object. And that's how we know where to put it in our sentence. Same thing with the plural. Got my first declension or second declension masculine plural pattern where we'll end, where it's going to have a stem ending with the omicron, and you add the iota or the epsilon sigma. The iota makes it the plural for the subject. Epsilon sigma makes it the direct object or the accusative for the subject. Either way, it's translated words. Euangelia is going to be, that means good news.
Okay.
Gospel, the gospel. It's still gospels or good news, plural. And I'm going to have it, I'm going to take, the omicron is not shown here, but it was there. It got swallowed up. But I have an alpha ending for the subject and an alpha ending for the accusative. Other things will tell you how it's functioning. But in my first declension, for feminine words, plural, I have the alpha iota ending and the alpha sigma ending. The alpha iota tells me agapai, it's the subject. Basileia is the subject. So love, here's the loves, plural, is the subject. Kings or kingdoms, here is the subject. And agapos, that's my daughter calling me. So it's functioning as the subject.
Okay.
I know this is a little confusing, but you're going to get it as we go through it.
Okay.
All right. So here's sort of the paradigm. And basically what you want to learn is there's a root to every single word, log, and then you add a stem to it. And if it has an omicron stem, it's going to follow this second declension pattern. And all second declension words have an omicron stem ending. Here over here's an omicron stem ending for euangelion. If it has the omicron sigma, it's masculine and it's functioning as the subject. Accusative singular, logon. Plural, logoi. Accusative plural, which would be the direct object, plural, lagus. All of this means word, word, words plural. Here's the subject, here's the subject, here's the direct object, here's the direct object. We have second declension neuter words.
Okay.
Logos can never be neutered, it's always masculine, it always follows this pattern. Neuter words always can never be feminine, it can never be masculine, it follows this pattern. This word is euangelion, singular, my omicron stem ending, so I know it's second declension. And I have the new ending, oh, I just switched it, that's not right, that's backwards. The new ending is my subject, it's the nominative singular. Euangelion, here, I know it's the same ending, you'll learn later how to differentiate. I made it easier for you because I color coded.
Okay.
Accusative, an accusative case. An accusative case is going to function as a direct object. So here's good news, a gospel, singular, in the subject form. Here's gospel, singular, in the direct object. Here's gospels, plural, in the subject form. Here's gospels, plural, in the direct object. They mean the exact same thing, singular, plural, but one is going to go as my subject and one's going to go as my direct object. That's how we know the difference. That's what inflection is. And for us, there are case endings that we see, I've color-coded. Those case endings tell us how to use it in the sentence as a subject or the direct object. And they all follow a certain pattern. And once you learn the pattern, it becomes much simpler. And so that's really what I want you to learn is the pattern.
Okay.
So here's the pattern. There's two ways to look at the pattern. These are case endings, okay? Just like English has a case ending that tells you it's the subject or the object or the direct or the possessive. Here's the case endings for the Greek for the subject and the direct object, singular, subject plural, direct object plural. So if the stem has a sigma added to it, that's a nominative singular. Here is the accusative singular. And so this is the pattern. Notice very simply, there's a sigma, nothing, neuter. Neuter, not neuter, excuse me. I'm reading neuter. New. Iota, iota, alpha. Upsilon, sigma, sigma, alpha. There is a pattern. And matter of fact, if you go to a page with the book, there are 8 noun rules. And some of these rules, they're actually talking about this pattern. Let me find it.
What page?
I'm looking for that now. Okay, page 35.
Okay.
They give you the first 3 noun rules in chapter 6. You'll get 2 more in chapter 7 and a couple more later on. Okay, so notice the first noun rule. Stems ending in alpha. Let me go to this next slide. Now, this is the noun cases, the sigma with the stem ending, the omicron. The alpha and the eta is the stem ending for feminine first declension. The omicron is the stem ending for second declension words, and the new is the nominative case ending here. So this is actually how I learned it. There's value of learning it this way, but it's easier to see it this way. What it says, number 1, stems ending in alpha or eta, well, that's right here, in alpha or eta, are in the first declension. That means it's going to follow a pattern associated with this first declension. That pattern is different than this pattern. It's different than this pattern. And so we know it's feminine. First declension is feminine. And if the stem ends in alpha or eta, then that's a first declension feminine pattern we're going to follow for both singular and plural words. So it says stems ending in alpha or eta are in the first declension. Stems ending in omicron are in second. Well, here's my omicron stem ending right here. Second declension. Omicron stem ending, second declension. So it's going to follow a pattern. One for masculine, one for neuter words. And so we follow that. Second rule, noun rule. Every neuter word has the same form in the nominative and the accusative. Well, that's what this is. Right here, neuter words. It has the exact same form in the nominative, right here, nominative and accusative. It's the same form. Same thing here in the plural. Nominative plural, accusative plural is the same form. So these rules will help you to recognize the pattern, and that's what it's trying to do. It's impossible to learn every paradigm, every matrix. You'd spend forever. But if you begin to see the pattern in the words, you'll be able to recognize them much quicker.
Right.
It takes a little time, but you'll pick it up.
Okay.
Okay, so noun rule 2 says every neuter word has the same form in the nominative and the accusative. Noun rule 3 says almost all neuter words end in alpha in the nominative and accusative. That's what this is saying. Not only is it the same ending, but almost all neuter words in the nominative plural and accusative plural end in alpha. And there's a reason for that. We won't go into it tonight. It has to do with what's called contraction, and we'll get to that actually much later.
Okay.
So there are 8 noun rules that are designed to help you recognizing the pattern. That's all we're trying to get you to see is that pattern.
The pattern.
Right. So let me go, for example, in here, it says theos agape, there's my little subscript iota, ton cosmon. Theos agape ton cosmon. Well, here is the exact same sentence. It means the exact same thing, but it's written in a different order. Ton cosmon theos agape. In Greek, the word order doesn't tell us the meaning, okay? The word order can give us emphasis and some other things, but it does not tell us the meaning. Okay. So we have to know the case endings. Here's my omicron sigma. Well, Omicron sigma is going to be the subject. So when I put this in English, I'm going to put the os as my subject. Now, we hadn't got to this ending yet. That's an indirect object, so we'll skip over it. But here we've had the new ending and the cosmon ending. This is the neuter. This is the word for thee, and this is the word for world or earth or world or universe. We should stop doing that. And so a cosmon, so this is God, this is actually the verb, loves the world.
Wow.
And I know it, and so you know what? This is God loves the world too. It's the exact same thing, despite the order it's written in. I know how to put the os as the subject because it's ending. I know that this is the accusative direct object, the world, because of its ending. So once I learn that pattern, I can translate the sentence, not just the word. Knowing that the os is God is one thing, but knowing where to put it in the sentence is a different thing. So you have to know both. And the way to do that is learn that pattern. Omicron stem ending right there is going to tell me it's in a second declension pattern. And when I know that pattern, the sigma ending tells me it's the nominative, which means it's functioning as the subject. So when I translate it, I'm going to say, no matter how it's written in Greek, I'm going to say God loves the world. That's how you do that. So that's an overview, and until you actually do it in the homework a few times, you're not going to get comfortable with this. And I think that's what that is. And one more thing I want to bring out here. We're used to dictionaries. In languages, you have lexicons. Lexicons are glorified dictionary. They have more than just the meaning. They're going to give you more information about the word than just the meaning. So they're called lexicons. It's a fancy name for a dictionary because it's got more information. When you look up a word in a lexicon, you have to look up the nominative singular. That's how it's going to be in the lexicon. So if I wanted to find the word, if I was looking in the Greek Bible and I saw logon and I didn't know what it meant, well, I couldn't find logon in the Bible. It's not going to be there, or in the lexicon, because it's going to be in the nominative singular form. I have to find logos. So I have to know the pattern to know that, oh, logon is accusative. Oh, what would it be for nominative? Well, Omicron tells me it's a second declension pattern. Sigma, I know, is the nominative singular for that second declension pattern. So I would look up logos, and that's how I'd find it in the lexicon. So if I'm looking at apostoloi, well, apostoloi is, there's my Omicron stem ending. So that's second declension pattern. This iota tells me that it's, because I know what pattern I'm following, this is going to tell me that's a plural. And so I know I'm talking about apostles, plural. Well, I won't find that in the lexicon because it's the plural form. I've got to find the singular form. This is the nominative plural, and I need the nominative singular. So it's logos, and that's how I look it up. Okay. So you need to know that. So when you look up words, now when we actually break words down into its pieces, every word has sort of a placeholder. We have in logos, we have a stem, or excuse me, a root. We add omicron to make a stem, and that would be laga. That's this placeholder. And then we add the case ending. Well, the case ending tells me what case it is, how it functions. Is it going to function as the direct object or function as the subject? Well, that ending tells me that. Is it going to function, is it singular or plural? Is it masculine, feminine, or neuter? Those are all the things that I need to know. And so we practice parsing. Parsing is to break it into its parts. So here we've really got three parts. We got the root with log, log. We have the stem ending, which is the omicron. So the stem is actually laga. And then we have the case ending, which is the upsilon sigma. Well, this case ending tells me it's accusative. So when I do my parsing, I'm going to say, make sure I'm in English here. I am, okay. It's going to be accusative. It's plural. Now it's gender. I know it's gender because it's following, it's either going to be, it's second declension, and second declension has two genders. It has masculine and neuter. Well, I know it's masculine because, again, the case ending tells me that it's masculine. There's a different pattern for neuter second declension words. So it's usually wrong. There we go. I'm a perfectionist, so I go back and correct things I don't need to correct. So its gender is masculine.
Okay.
Now, its lexical form, that's how I'm going to look it up in the lexicon. Well, the lexical form is going to have to be the same stem. Well, not have to be. I can't be careful how I say that. There's my root, log. There's my stem, logos. And now the lexical form is nominative singular. That would be logos. Okay. The other thing that it's asking is its inflected meaning. Let me do this. Inflected meaning is what does it mean in this the where we're looking at it, not its lexical form, but here. And so here, the inflected meaning has to be. It cannot be. Let me go to English now. Make sure I'm in English. Okay, it's not word because this is a word is singular. It's words plural. It's an accusative case, meaning functions as a direct object. It's plural. It's masculine from the lexical form of logos, and its lexical, its inflected meaning, inflected. There's my inflection. I changed my case ending. Is words plural, and that's how you break it down into its parts. You will practice this quite a bit, and so here we got another word, erga. Erga. Its case ending. Look, it is a well, I'm trying to remember now if that's going to be. See, I have a couple of different options here. This is either going to be nominative or accusative. We'll show you why in a minute. No, that's all right. Nominative. That's right, isn't it? Nominative. How do you spell nominative? Okay, and that's why I left the N out. Okay, nominative or accusative. Its number is going to be plural. Its gender is going to be neuter.
Okay.
Its lexical form is going to be ergon, I think. I go to Greek. I think they're gone. Yeah, I think it is. They're gone. And it's inflected meaning, in other words, wrong. Wait a minute. Go back to English to do this. Go back to, okay. It's inflected meaning, what does erga mean? It's not asking me what ergon means. Well, ergon means work. Well, what does erga means? Well, if it's a plural, it's going to mean works, W-O-R-K-S. And that would be its inflected meaning. Now, in this case, it can be used as either the nominative case or the accusative case. If I go back to here, I could see that here's my nominative plural and accusative plural. And just like we saw in our noun rules, almost all neuter words in alpha in the nominative and in the accusative plural, as well as noun rule 2, every neuter word has the same form in the nominative and the accusative. So ergon could be either nominative or accusative. In the singular, and erga can be nominative or accusative in the plural. And so if I were to translate this in a sentence, I know there's other cues, there's other clues that we'll get later that will tell me if this is going to be the subject or the direct object. Right now, with the information I'm given, I don't know. Right? But I do know it's plural. I do know its gender. The grammatical classification of it is neuter. I do know its lexical form is ergon. And I do know its meaning, inflected meaning, that is erga, means works. That makes sense. You following?
Yeah, I'm following you, I think.
Okay, good. Well, good news is this is recorded, so you can go back.
I know that's right.
So it goes over their noun rules now. And we've already went over noun rule 1. Stems ending in alpha or eta are in the first declension. Declension is nothing more than a pattern. It's a pattern. Look at the leaves on the tree. There's certain, it's like comparing a red apple tree, say a second declension masculine, second declension neuter. It's like comparing a red apple tree to a green apple tree. Green apples don't grow in red apple trees. Red apples don't grow in green apple trees. Green apples grow in green apple trees. Red apples grow in red apple trees. There's a pattern for each. And then an orange tree doesn't grow in apples. So first declension would be like an orange tree. And so it has its own pattern. And so you learn those patterns, and there's not many. You learn those patterns and you practice them, and you just become to the point where you can recognize them when you see them, and then you'll be able to make the translation. The only other thing you have to learn then is what the word means. So basically, I'm trying to help you to find the patterns, to recognize them, so you know how to translate it in terms of where it goes in the sentence. But you also have to know what the word means. So stem endings in alpha or eta are the first declension pattern. Stem endings in omicron are second declension pattern. Now, first declension pattern is only feminine words. They don't have neuter. They don't have masculine. Second declension patterns don't have feminine, but they do have masculine and neuter words. And then there's what's called third declension, which we're not going to get to for a while. They're called consonantal stems. They don't have an alpha or eta or an omicron. Those are vowels. They have consonants for their stem endings. And we'll do those much later. Let's get comfortable with this, and then we'll focus on third declensions later. But there's only three patterns you're learning. There's a pattern for first declension, singular and neuter, pattern for second declension, masculine, neuter, singular, and plural. There's a pattern for third declension, which we'll do later. Okay, so the noun rules are emphasized like here. Every neuter word, second rule, every neuter word has the same form, same form like spelling, in the nominative and accusative. Well, that's ergon. Here, that means ergon, looking at it, I don't know if it's a subject, nominative, or if it's the direct object, accusative. I don't know. Not until I see it in the sentence, and I have other clues, will I know.
Okay.
Noun rule 3. All neuter words in an alpha in the nominative and accusative plural. Well, there we go. Erga. That is works, plural. I don't know if it's the subject, nominative, or the direct object by just looking at this. I'll know when I see it in the sentence because there are other clues that are given to me. So, but I could translate it as works. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use it as a subject or as a direct object until I get to the other clues. So that's really the first introduction to nouns. Nouns function as a subject, place, or thing, a subject or direct object. They can be possessive, and they can do other things, indirect object. Tonight, all we looked at is 2 functions. One is the subject, and one is the direct object. Subject is called nominative, and the direct object is called accusative. There's singular and plural. There's masculine, feminine, and neuter. So learn the trees.
Okay.
They help you. They really do. Then there's the chapter 6 also talks about the definite article. I don't know why they put it here. I think because you want to learn it a little bit early because you see it a lot. I know one of the persons, I think it was George, had sent me a question with regard to the definite article and with the name Abraham. And so we're talking a little about the definite article. It's in chapter 6. It comes up so early, I think, because it's so prominent in Greek. You have to understand it early.
Wow.
To me, it's a little much to do the definite article with the nouns, the first two nouns, but I think because the definite article is so important, they want you to know, and it really is your friend, because if you learn the pattern for the definite articles, you're going to automatically know the pattern for the nouns because of the same, and the definite article will actually help you tremendously learn the pattern for the definite articles. Guaranteed, it will be a tremendous help. The definite article in English is the, right?
Yes.
In English, there's a indefinite article called a or an. Well, there is no indefinite article in Greek. If a noun does not have a definite article associated with it, then we could translate it, not saying we will, with the indefinite, the a or an. But generally speaking, the indefinite article will translate as the. And the nice thing about the definite article is that it has to agree with the noun it's modifying. For example, ha theos. Let me type it. Greek or English? I'm in English. Ha the. I think it's with this. Let's see. Come on. That's not be right. Let's do this. Okay, ha theos. We talked about the second declension pattern with the omicron stem ending. And I know that's in the nominative case because it has the sigma. But if I forget that and I don't remember it, that article is going to tell me the exact same thing. Ha is the nominative case singular. And so, and the nice thing about ha is it's, if it's there at all, it is going to be next to the word theos or very close to it. And they're not generally separated. Sometimes there's a word in between, and that's called a postpositive, and we'll do that later. But generally speaking, ha theos means, let me get in English again, the God. And so if I don't have the ha, it may or may not be the God. It's just God. Maybe it's a God. Well, I won't know until I see the context in the sentence. But I do know ha theos, and the nice thing about ha, I need to go back to Greek. Sorry, I keep switching. The article has to agree in its case, number, and gender. So the os is in the nominative case, it's masculine, and it's singular. Well, the article must agree with it. It is in the nominative case, it is masculine, and it's singular. So ha, theos agree with each other. And if I don't remember, if I don't recognize the case ending of theos, if I learn the article paradigm, then I automatically know what this is. For example, in one of our vocabulary words was I think. Yeah, I think that's it. It might have been like this. I think it would be this. And actually, the lexical form this is what I got asked about. Abraham ha. Well, it's there because it's telling me that this is the nominative case, it's masculine, and it's singular. Well, so is Abraham. Nominative case, masculine, and singular. Abraham's a name, so it's not going to follow the same conventions. Names don't always do. They're not. Most names are not indeclinable. I mean, they don't change. I won't put a sigma here or some other. I won't. They won't change where to fit the function, subject or accusative. But I know by the ha. So generally, that's the lexical form. I find it written that way. But in the Greek, Bible, you'll find it written as ha Abraham. And when we translate it, we don't normally say, get back to English, the Abraham. We normally say, and so we'll typically just translate it as Abraham. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It shows agreement here, and that's what the agreement is talking about. The article is really can be your best friend. I really suggest you spend time with it. And so when we learn the article, here we've got the nominative singular, the accusative singular, the nominative plural, and the accusative plural. Ha, and there's masculine, feminine, neuter. Learn it this way. Ha, hey, ta. Ton, te, ta. Hoi, hi, ta. Tus, tas, ta. That's how I would learn it. Now, we're going to get the two more next week. We'll get the genitive and dative singular and genitive and dative plural, and so you'll have the whole thing. But learn it this way. Ha, he, ta, an, te, ta, hoi, hi, ta, tus, tas, ta. Here's the amazing thing about this.
Wow.
Is what's the ta ending and the ta ending? It follows the same noun rule as we saw. That in the neuter, the nominative and accusative are going to be the same. Here's the same, and we see that it's got the omicron ending, or it's not technically a stem ending, but here's the omicron. So I know I'm well. Let me correct myself. In the article, there's no first, second, or third declension. It doesn't exist. It's just the article. Well, ha, he, ta. There's a masculine, feminine, and neuter. Well, if I got a feminine subject, I must have a feminine article. Right. If I have a neuter subject, I must have a neuter article. So if the subject is spirit, pneumata, then the article cannot be ha. It has to be ta, because pneumata is neuter, a neuter word. So it will follow that pattern. So if you learn this, you actually see the same endings. There's the new, and then, well, not quite the same ta, but this actually helps you to recognize the endings. There's the tus, the tas, and the ta. So the alpha ending, the alpha sigma ending, and the omicron upsilon sigma ending is the same thing for the nouns, except in the article we put a tau in front of it, so it's tus, tas, ta. Tus, tas. And here's, look, the hoi. Does that look familiar when you go back to here? Here's my hoi, hi, ah. When I go to the article, hoi, hi, ta. Same thing here. This is where I find agreement. Us, as, ah. Here, tus, tas, ta. Almost the same, not quite with the accusative singular, han, with the, or on, ain, the alpha nu or eta nu, and on. But in the article, it's a little different. I got ton, tain. It's not going to be the alpha, it's going to be the eta. And there's no nu here. But they, for the most part, pretty much come close, follow the same. But that's how you begin to recognize. What happens is, and I already touched on this, hatheos sotse sukos. This is God, the God. Here's the God. This is, you haven't got the verbs yet. This is third person singular, save. So the God, he saves. So God saves. And this is sukos. Well, this omicron sigma ending, we've already seen. We saw the omicron sigma here. Omicron sigma ending, and that's accusative plural. So when I translate this, I'm going to go, God saves lives, plural. The article is here with the os, as if the is there. If it's there, it's the. If it's not, it could be a. So if it wasn't there, then you could say a God saves lives. Context is going to tell you whether it's correct or not, but it is there, and so it is the God saves lives. Now, I may not translate the to make it easier to speak in English. I might just say God saves lives. Yeah. The nice thing, the amazing thing about translations, there's a science and an art. The science is what we've just been talking about. The article must agree with the noun it's modifying or it's associated with. I could see the omicron sigma ending. It's a first or second declension masculine, and that's because of sigma. It's a functioning as the subject. Well, I know that because it's an agreement with the article. So there's my subject. Well, here's my omicron, my alpha sigma. That's going to be my accusative feminine ending. And so we haven't got the verbs yet. So God saves lives. Where I was going with that. Names and abstract nouns may have the article. But we don't always translate the article. We don't say the Abraham, or sometimes we don't even say the God. So sometimes we don't translate the, just to make it easier reading. There are other words that are called postpositives. For example, this article cannot be separated with that noun, except when a postpositive comes in between. Let's see if I can paste that. Okay, paste it there. Well, it didn't work. Let me do it this way. So I could have this noun, this article and noun should not be separated, but there is some called postpositives. This is my Greek or English. Okay, I'm in English. So I could have that, ha de. Well, de could mean but, and it's called a postpositive because in Greek it never comes at the beginning of the sentence. But when I translate it, I'm going to translate it as if it's in the beginning. I'm going to say, but God saves lives. And so that's just information, is that the article, it does not get separated with the noun it's modifying or it's with, unless there's a postpositive. And there's only 2 or 3 postpositives, de, gar, and some other one I forget. So generally speaking, you'll see them right next to each other, and that tells me, if I learn that article, oh, that noun is a nominative singular masculine noun because it's with ha. And even if I don't know, os is nominative singular masculine. If I learn ha, and it makes life so much easier. And I know it's functioning as a subject. This one thing that Dr. Mounts brings out in his book is that in the beginning, all this is going to seem like a fog. It's a lot to throw at you, and you're going to feel overwhelmed. But as you do the homework, you're going to begin to get comfortable with pieces of it, not all of it.
Right.
So you begin to get comfortable with pieces of it, and as you move to the next chapter, the previous chapter starts to become a little more familiar. And as you move to the next chapter, well, that previous chapter, the one that you're working on now, becomes even more familiar. Because what you do is you keep building on it. And so this picture becomes more and more clear, and the fog lifts the more you move further, deeper into it. So counterintuitive, the more you dive into the fog, the deeper you go in the fog, the clearer it becomes on those things that you've already worked. But you have to get in the fog to get out of it. You know, so I know it's confusing. One reason we record it so you can go back through it, but the book and Mouse's page really, really help. You've got to go through the homework, and you cannot get behind. If you get behind, you'll get lost. You've got to stay up with it. If you don't spend a minimum of 30 minutes, and 30 minutes is almost not enough, it just depends on how comfortable you are with it. If you don't spend a minimum of 30 minutes a day with the homework, that is to learn the grammar and the vocabulary, you'll get behind very quickly, and you will definitely get lost. Now, the good news is we record it, so you can use that and go back through it as you do your homework, as you have questions. I have no problems. Give me a call, text me, send me an email. I try to respond quickly. Sometimes I get overloaded and overwhelmed, and I get behind, just like we do.
I understand.
So the vocabulary in this chapter, some of the words we've already seen. This is, let's see, agape, and it means love. Okay, agape. Now, this is the lexical form. When you look in the lexicon, this is what you're going to find. And notice that agape has an article with it, and that article is hey. Well, if we go back to the articles, there's hey. It's feminine, and so agape not only has the alpha ending, the eta ending, which tells me it's feminine, so it's following a first declension feminine pattern. but it has an article that tells me the same thing. And that's how you find it in the glorified dictionary, the lexicon. Also in the lexicon is this little add-on, this little dash eta sigma. Agape can be agapes. And we haven't got to, we'll get to this next week, called the genitive. So what the lexicon does, it gives you the nominative singular form. It tells you what the genitive singular ending is. And so when we get to here, next week we'll do the genitive and the dative. And so we'll fill these in right here. And that'll make a little more sense. But same with the article, we'll do the genitive and dative. And all we're doing is the same thing over and over, the same thing over and over again. So there's some new stuff, but we're going to apply it to different things and to try to get repetition out of it. But the agape has a genitive form which says it's possessive, agapes. And so it tells me the basic pattern it follows with the article. That's what's in the lexicon. That's how I look it up. Alos means another, and there's its nominative genitive form. Alos happens to be an adjective. The nice thing about an adjective is it follows the same pattern as the nouns. You have nominative, or you have a masculine, feminine, and neuter. Well, an adjective has to agree with the noun it's modifying. So if I got a feminine noun, then alos has to be ale. So it will look like, I'll just type it out so you can see it. Let's see where I'm in Greek, okay. Like this. It would look like that, ale. And if it's modifying a feminine word, say another woman, then it would say ale. If it's modifying a masculine word, another man, then it would look like that. If it's modifying a neuter word, another spirit, it would be Allah. And so it's the same word, has different endings, so I know what it's agreeing with. So this is an adjective. We hadn't got to adjectives yet, but I just want you to see why it looks that way. So don't try to learn that, but just understand why it looks that way.
Okay.
Altos. I know I had that. Get rid of that. Okay. Altos is a pronoun, means he, but not every pronoun is a he. Some are a she, so it could be alte. Some are neuter, an it, so it could be alta. And so you have altos, alte, alta. That's its lexical form. Basileia is king, or kingdom. I forget now. Kingdom, yeah. Basileia. Well, I've got my alpha ending, so I know it's following the feminine pattern, the first declension feminine pattern. There's my, and this confirms it. I've got my eta, hey. The rough breathing has the H sound, so it's hey for my article. So it's basileia hey. The dash omicron sigma would tell me the genitive form, so that would be basileos, which is possessive. It'd be the kingdom's possession, whatever it is. And then I'd still have the hey for the noun. Well, no, I wouldn't for genitive. I'd have a different one. We'll get to that another day. Here's the post-positive we saw, de. Sometimes, you know, when we do English, we can have some words we write like can. Let me do this in English, just so you can see. Get to English. That's Hebrew. C-A-N. Oh, come on, do it with black ink. Can, but like sometimes will be written as can't, or we can have can't with an apostrophe. No, this is what I meant to do. I'm sorry. Can not, or can be can't. Well, some words would do the same thing. I can have de, or I can have this little apostrophe. And when this occurs, that's because there's the word that comes after it's got a vowel, and they don't like to put them together, so they So this is the exact same word, de and d, and you pronounce it with the word it's attached to. So this is not much different in English. That's what I was trying to show you.
Okay.
Okay, same kind of thing. So same word. If there's another word like agape, then we wouldn't write it de agape. You'd write it de and with the apostrophe. I can't do the apostrophe in Greek. It'd be de agape or de agape. That's how it would be written because there's a vowel here. That's all that is. Okay.
Okay.
But it means typically it means but. B-U-T. Can mean and. Can also mean also. Then this little word called in. It means. Here's the thing. This is hard to remember, so really practice this. This one's here in English here. Yep. This means in. In means in.
Wow.
Okay. It's a preposition, and it means in. That's all it is. So that one's pretty easy. Ergon, we've already saw. Ergon means work. It's a neuter word. And here's my neuter article, ta. And so I would find it in the lexicon this way. Chi, there's a diphthong. Chi Ross. There's my. It's a noun, so it has an article with it, and it happens to be a masculine singular article, ha. So kairos which means time or season, and there's my masculine singular there. So time or season, ha. Noon is a particle, and it means now. So the nice thing about that, it's very similar to English. Noon means now. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. There we go. Noon means now. The best way to learn vocabulary is find little tricks. Like when I say noon, I mean now, or high noon means now. Find little tricks that will help you. Kairos, time or season. So you find a way to make kairos click in your mind. Off the top of my head, I can't think of some. I did when I learned this years ago. But here's the article. The article lexical form: ha, hey, ta. Masculine singular, feminine singular, neuter singular. Ha, hey, ta. Hati is a particle. Hati, there's a rough breathing, so it has an H sound in front of it. Hati, and it means because, that, or since. Ooh, there's many ways to spell no. In English, we spell no, N-O.
Right.
You can spell no, omicron upsilon kappa, or you can spell omicron upsilon key. It's the exact same word. There's reasons this occurred, and we'll get to those much later. Let's see. And the last word, rough breathing. So an H sound in front of it. This is an omega, so it's ho-ra. Ho-ra. And it has, you see my alpha ending is feminine, so it's going to follow that first declension pattern. And if I don't remember that, I can remember my article with hey, and that's feminine. And so this is the nominative singular feminine pattern, first declension. And hora, hey, means hour. The hour which Jesus died, hora. And so that's our vocabulary from chapter 6. You've got to spend a lot of time in the grammar, which is the homework, and in the vocabulary. The nice thing is most about the homework is they try to use the same vocabulary words. In homework, we want to do chapter 6 in the workbook. There's 4 sections in the homework, but we only do 3. If you want to practice more, you can do more. Now, I don't ask you to do all of the chapter 6 workbook homework. I don't ask you to do it all.
Okay.
Okay. I ask you to do all the parsing. Okay, that's the section where you break the parts down, the word into its parts. You know, what case it is, what number it is. Its case is either going to be nominative or accusative. What number it is, it's either going to be plural or singular. What gender it is, it's either going to be masculine, feminine, or neuter. What its lexical form is, the lexical form is always the nominative singular form that you'd find in the lexicon. And then what its inflected meaning is. The inflected meaning is the meaning of the word that you're translating, not the lexical form, but the word you're translating. So if it's plural or singular, about the only real difference you'll get for the most part. There may be some others. But anyway, all the parsing, I think there's 10 of them. Okay, so that gives you a practice. Do the odd number warm-up exercises. The warm-ups are normally pretty easy. Normally the warm-ups are not from the Bible.
Okay.
The translations are from the Bible. But do the warm-up, just the odd number ones. If you want to practice, you can do them all.
Okay.
And then do the even number translation ones. You don't have to do them all. Just do the even numbers. I think there's 10 of them each, so you do 5 each.
Okay.
And I know it takes time. So if you're struggling, you might want to do more. There is a section called translation or additional translations. They're a little longer, and those are directly from the Bible. So as you translate them, you begin to recognize them. In addition to that, read the Basic and Biblical Greek chapter 7 for next week, because we've got to move towards the rest of the nouns. And so we're going to look at nouns tonight and next week, and we're going to look at the noun in 4 cases, 4 different functions, right? The nominative case and accusative case we did tonight. The nominative is subject, and the accusative is direct object. Next week, we're going to look at 2 more cases. We're just going to add 2 more. We're going to use the same form, the same tree, an apple tree, a red apple, and a green apple, an orange tree, first declension, second declension, masculine and neuter. We're going to use the same tree, but now we're going to add 2 more leaves to it, okay? The genitive case is possessive, you know, and the dative case is an indirect object. So we're just adding 2 more endings. The word stays the same. It's still laga, and it'll now become lagu or lagoi, and those kind of things. But it's the exact same word. It just now can be possessive in the dative. We'll do that next week. Chapter 7 will give you an intro to it. I'll walk through it and hopefully answer any questions on the exercises as we go through it next week. Any thoughts or questions before we close?
No.
It's a lot, I know.
A lot.
But it is a language. So, you know, as I mentioned from the beginning, because it is a language, we are comfortable in English because we grew up with it.
That's right.
If you're a child, learning a new language is relatively easy. But when we become an adult, we are so entrenched in what we know, it's hard to train our mind to do something different. And a language is very difficult to train our mind. The only way you can train your mind to look at it differently, especially going from a language like English to Greek. English is a very structured language with very little inflection. Greek is a highly flexible, I guess is the best way, where a lot of inflection. And we're not used to that. Latin works the same way. Greek works the same way. And we're not used to it. So the only way you can do it is practice, 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 practice. Time, 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 time. That's all you can do. It helps if you have someone to work with you. If not, you just have to use the helps on the Basics of Biblical Greek online. Use the homework and do as much of it as you can. You do a little bit each day. Maybe one day you put down a couple hours to work on it. Another day you work on it for an hour. You know, you just get piece by piece by piece, and you get there.
Oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
All right. Well, I have every confidence you can do it. There's no question of that. The question is how much effort any one person is willing to put in order to advance forward in it. For me, it was an eye-opener. It was confusing until I got into it, and the more I got into it, yes, this new stuff I was learning was confusing, but the old stuff became clearer and clearer the more I went deeper and deeper. And I got more and more comfortable with it as I keep doing it. It becomes almost like English. I'm not there yet. I'm not to that point, but I'm working on that. So.
How long have you been studying Greek?
About 10 years.
10 years. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I've had probably of actually classes, probably 5 years of Greek.
Wow.
Between the same Greek you're going through right now, the exact same thing. And then I, take semester 1, semester 2 to get through nouns and verbs. And then I did Greek reading. I just did several Greek reading courses. I wanted to learn to read it, not just to translate it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a necessity. Not everybody wants to do that. But for me, it just helped me make myself more comfortable with it. So I started reading like the 1st John, 2nd John, 3rd John. And right now, what I do is I spend a little time every day translating one of the books. If I plan to, like this fall, I'm supposed to teach Revelation. So I started here about a month ago, going through Revelation and start translating it. And once I get the translation done, then I'll go back through the commentaries and add my notes, and I build my lesson from that. So it just takes time. I'm not an expert at it by any means. I make several mistakes, and I have to look up a lot of things. I don't remember the vocabulary, not all of it. The more I do it, the more I remember. But oftentimes I come to a word, I'm like, what is this word? Or why does this word have this ending? That doesn't make any sense. And then I'll look it up and figure it out.
That's right.
It just takes time and effort. So.
And see, my goal with this is that, I do a lot of teaching, I do a lot of preaching and presentations, and I just want to be all that I can be for the Lord. So this is just going to build me and make me better.
Well, let me show you how. I'm going to show you something. If I show you, I know we're late, but if you have a minute, I'm going to show you something real quick to show you why this is, at least in my mind, why this is so valuable. Let me pull up a passage in Scripture, verse, I think it's 36. Oh, I'm typing in Greek in an English application. That doesn't work.
And you're going to type it in Greek. I'm not there yet.
Okay, John 3:36. All right, so I'm going to share a different screen real quick, and then we'll close. Actually, we're done, but I just want to show you something, just to show you why I love this so much. Let's see, is this the right screen? I think it is.
My pronunciation is not that good.
Listen, time. You'll get it. Just do one piece at a time. It's not important that you read it, although you got to pronounce it so we can communicate. I can't know what word you're talking about if you can't say it or type it or spell it. So it's important for you and I to communicate, but you don't have to get to the point to read, although you may want to the further you go. Right. The nice thing about reading Greek is that once you learn the pronunciation of the vowels and the consonants of the alphabet, really, and you begin to put them together, it's much easier than even English.
Wow.
Can you see my screen with John 3:36, hopis duon, eston, weon, eke, zeon, ionion, hade, apethon, te, to, weo, opsetai, seon. I don't need to read the rest. Can you see the screen over here?
Yeah.
Okay, don't worry about it. Here's what I want to show you. There's the article ha, and here's pestuon. Now this is a participle. You don't have that yet. So this is the believing one. The believing one in the Son, he has life eternal. Okay, now so we know John 3:30, he who believes in the Son has eternal life. So the believing one in the Son has life eternal. Here's the neat thing about it. If I go to the King James, pull up the King James over here.
He who believes in the Son.
You use what translation do you use in English typically?
KJV, and I use NIV for helps.
Okay. Well, the King James will translate this in John 3:36. He that believeth on the Son has everlasting life, and he that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abide on him. So this is the interesting thing I want to point out. He that believeth not versus he that believeth. Mm-hmm. So let's go to the actual Greek. The Greek says, the one that believes, that's what King James has. He that believeth in the Son has eternal life. That's what King James has. Mm-hmm. But it also says, hade apethon. Apethon does not mean not believe. It means not obey.
Oh, my goodness.
It means not obey. Now, King James is not wrong in his translation. That's why I tell you, translation is both an art and a science. This art is that when you make a translation from one language to another, you're translating for a given audience. and that audience, oftentimes you will make the translation smooth for that audience. So it's not wrong to say, "He that believeth in the Son has eternal life, and he that believeth not will not see life, but the wrath of God abides on him." But it's not the best translation, because the actual translation is that he that believeth in the Son has eternal life, but he that does not obey the Son will not see life, but the wrath of God abides on him. There's a big difference between belief and disobedience. And what it does, it shows you there's a contrast between belief and obedience. There's a relationship. So one who believes versus one who does not obey says that there's a relationship between obedience and belief. And, so by translating it, "he that does not believe," we actually weaken, we actually water down what the actual meaning is. The actual meaning is that he who believes in the Son has eternal life, but he who does not obey the Son will not see life, but the wrath of God abides on him. On who? The one who does not obey. So it's not just believing, it's obeying.
Obeying.
And so the two are connected. When you translate it with "he that believeth has eternal life, and he does not believe, that does not see life, the wrath of God abides on that one," well, you missed that. And so that nuance, that reality isn't there in the English. And so knowing the Greek is going to give you a deeper understanding of what the original author intended. When you take from a Greek to an English language, we have to translate in order for our audience to understand it. Sometimes we do a good job. Sometimes we don't do so. It's a good job. King James is a great translation. I'm not putting it down. However, this is a place where it probably they did it because it sounds smoother. "He that believeth has eternal life. He that believeth in the Son has eternal life. He that does not believe." Well, that's a much smoother reading. However, there's a nuance that's taken away. "He that believeth has eternal life, but he who does not obey."
So the Greek just adds more clarity when you.
Well, I want to be careful with that, because there are a lot of places where you don't get clarity. So I don't want to say that you can get clarity per se. What you can get is greater depth. And you have to learn how to use that depth.
I like
and here, the point I want to bring out is that the actual translation, apatho, does not mean disobey, do not believe. Actually, to this word episteuo, if I put an alpha in front of it, that would be not believe. But here I got patho with an alpha in front of it. That means not obey.
Not obey.
Yeah, and I can go up and you can look at it. So here's apatho, to disobey or be disobedient. Not believing. Oh, but to not believe is to be disobedient. So they're not wrong. It's just not the best translation. So that's why, to me, it's worth the effort. And when I started to see this, my eyes got wider and wider, and I wanted to know more and more, and I just kept going. And, I fell in love with it, and as well as in the Hebrew, and I'm still going. So I just keep going because I love it. So hopefully you will too. Listen, I took you way past time, 13 minutes past time. I apologize for that, but hopefully it helps. And if you have any questions, send me a note or email or text or phone call, and we'll try to work through it. If I can't do it right then, we'll try to schedule something. But do the homework, spend time with it every day, practice the vocabulary, make little cue cards, little vocabulary flashcards, use the electronic, take them everywhere you go and practice. That's all you can do. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good night, Patricia. And I don't know who's on the phone, but thank you for joining. I see the phone number, but I don't know who that is. I'm guessing it's George, but I could be wrong. And anyway, maybe someday I'll find out. Homework is due. Please get caught up and turn those in. Again, if you can scan them in, PDF, email them to me, that's perfect. If not, do a picture and send me the picture, text or email. Thanks. Okay.
Today's homework is due when?
Today's homework was due today. You mean chapter 4, 3 and 4's homework was actually due today. Don't worry about it. Just give it to me with next week. And next week's homework is chapter 6. So by the time we meet, you have to go week at a time. And because what I'll do is I'll do a review of chapter 6 homework when we first meet next week. Okay. But you need to have gone through it so that we can actually review it together. And if you don't, then you get behind, and you'll never, trust me, you'll never get caught up. Once you get 3 weeks or so behind, you're about lost. Almost 3 or 4 weeks, forget it. So it's almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's a lot harder to get caught up. So you've got to stay caught up. You got to do the homework. I'm going to slow it down as we get a little further. So we just spend some time doing a review, and which gives you a little time to kind of absorb it. That's the thing about language, is it takes time to absorb. And but if you don't spend time in it, you can't absorb anything. So, okay, thank you, and y'all have a good night, and God bless. Thanks.
Thank you.